Shapali, how are you doing? Hey, in this video I want to dive deep in the concept of scarcity consciousness or poverty consciousness or, survival consciousness, because this is such a big theme for so many people, especially for the intuitive sensitive who might be through, let's say, emotional narcissistic abuse, right? And who are like way out of this war zone from a very long time ago, maybe 10, 20 years, but still struggle with their money themes, right? Or, getting out in the world and doing their own thing, finding their purpose in life. So let's talk about that, because I notice and I feel, and currently I also experience still this theme in my life. And some days it's much harder than others. And especially the last days or so, again, these layers are coming up to the surface again. So that's why I really want to dive deep into this, because, hey, most of these videos, actually I make them for myself. But if you can benefit from that, awesome. So let's talk about that. So the first level is kind of what I would like to call, it's really the deepest roots of, survival, more like scarcity, poverty consciousness. This is kind of like the feeling, the realization that there is a deep feeling of isolation, right? Deep feeling of isolation and lack, right? Lack of everything. And of course that also goes together with many layers of fear, right? This could be fear of being seen, or fear of being valued, right? Fear of being worthy, right? So or fear of success or fear of failure. There are many kind of fears that are, like supporting this feeling or realization of lack. But there's like a lack of everything, lack of joy in your life, lack of purpose, lack of passion, lack of excitement, right? Lack of connections, personal relationships, right? Lack of money, of course, which is the result of all of that, right? Lack of motivation, lack of inspiration, lack of drive, commitment, determination, and the list goes on and on and on and on, right? Maybe in here you kind of understand how everything works logically, right? But you cannot feel it, right? You know what to do, you know how to do it, but you don't know why. You cannot feel like it's a must for you to get out in the world, right? And even if you do, even if you try a little bit, right? You do something. Let's say you want to build an online business, you do something, you make a video, you post a video, and you kind of like fall 3 steps back because you post it, and what's going on in your mind, your subconscious mind will say, you see nobody gives a shit about you, you see it's not going to be received, you see it's not going to be valued, so why even bother? Right? Why even bother doing anything at all? And then you go back into your state of apathy, right? Like, it doesn't matter what you do, right? You doesn't matter. You don't see that you matter, right? That's really what's going on. So what's going on is, of course, maybe you have kind of like a job that just pays the bills, or maybe you have some sort of work going on that just pays for the basic things in life, and you kind of try to say to yourself, it's better to be humble, better not to do that much, or my needs are being met, yet you do not really feel your needs are being met because you feel an intense feeling of neediness, right? And maybe in the past you had a kind of financial successful business, but that went together with so much stress as well. And now you fear like, I don't want to go back to this kind of responsibility, because then I go again to my stress and my anxiety and whatnot. And that is actually, number 2, which is of course much more to do with survival consciousness. So step number 1 was really like the layer number 1 is really this deep realization of isolation, right? And lack. You feel like there's lack of everything. And then maybe you want to step out of this, feeling of depression perhaps. You want to step out of this isolation and you become very angry, right? You become like furious what's going on, of not being seen or whatever, not being valued, right? And that you see yourself as small, as little, and that's reflecting back from the people around you. They devalue you constantly. They see you, you're unworthy or whatnot, which is of course a reflection of what you're sending out. then you say, you know what, I'm going to prove myself that I can do it, right? You become so angry, so furious, that you use this anger to really to go out in the world, right? You use your willpower and you go in a massive action mode. And let's say you want to build an online business and you go absolutely mental, right? You just post so much stuff, you create so much, you become super productive. Yes, you are building kind of this momentum. Eventually, yes, you're going to make a little bit more income, maybe in another type of business. But then you're going to stumble upon other kind of things, because what you're doing, you're still like kind of like tiptoeing, you know. It still feels like you have to pull a car with your teeth. Like still you're going through so much stress and so much anxiety. You know, you really want to prove yourself. You really want to be seen and be recognized, and you really still want to get your validations, which you still are not getting. So you really go into a power control drama kind of thing. And sometimes it feels like, you know, in order to get this recognition or this validation or whatever, or in order to get your rewards, your financial rewards, you have to manipulate, right? So there's still like a lot of, you know, negativity involved. You haven't really cleared up a lot of these fears, right? From, I don't know, from maybe 10, 20 years ago, when you was maybe in an emotional abusive relationship where you was constantly devalued, right? Or, you know, you're unworthy, you're a piece of shit and whatever, right? So that's still going on. Like, you know, I really have to work very, very hard in order to prove myself, right? I have these super high expectations that I have to meet, otherwise I don't matter, right? So everything that you do contains so much of expectations. Everything is by willpower, not so much by motivation, or inspiration. So yeah, still a lot of power and control that is really involved. And this is kind of like where most people are at, you know. Those who are supposedly are having success in the world, right, who are having financial success, you know, a lot of them are still at this level 2, you know, power struggle, where people have to take power over others and whatnot. So, you know, a lot of intuitive sensitive, they feel that, they sense that, and, you know, they also say, you know what, this is also not what I want. And then they fall back in their, you know, isolation again, and they say, you know what, you know, running after money, success, fame, recognition, validation wasn't really what I was looking for either. But what is it that I'm looking for in the first place, right? So people don't really know exactly what it is that they want either. So again, there's this lack. So they fall back again at layer number 1, back in their isolation, and now they say, you know, nothing matters anymore, right? Again, a deeper depression, because now they have seen how it was like to make money and have fame, have success, and now they say, you know what, that even didn't matter either. So what's not? Then I want to talk about the third step, which is way beyond scarcity consciousness, poverty consciousness, right? Survival consciousness, and that is unity consciousness. Unity consciousness is where you step way above all these things about your survival, right? Where you feel like, you know, I'm this separated being, I'm this separated, isolated, you know, ego that is constantly after things, right? That feels like there's a need for something. I want something, right? You step way above that and you go into, you know, unity consciousness. It's a beautiful quote from Rumi that says, you know, we are all like a tiny little drop of water trying to reconnect with his ocean, right? I love this one, because when you got a glimpse of that, maybe through an inspiration that suddenly hit you like a lightning strike. It is literally a lightning strike, because it feels like there's so much suddenly pouring down through you, so much of, you know, profound insights, of inspiration, of what you suddenly start to see that you could do potentially for the world and for yourself, where you are here so concerned about your tiny little worries of survival, and then you look at that suddenly and you're like, you know what I'm working on is so big, it's so profound, it's such a big cause, such a big purpose or mission, that all of that is insignificant. It's so tiny of everything that I could, potentially be working on, right? The light that I'm channeling through, the insight and inspiration that I'm channeling through, and that I'm getting out in the world and working on this big mission. And everything you do is not longer about you anymore, right? So you develop much higher levels of empathy and compassion. You really are opening up the heart, and you make everything about, being of service to others, and is to really to be, to help others, is, to pay your fullest attention on the needs of someone else. And yes, you have this infrastructure of monetization in place, but you don't have to pay attention anymore to it, right? Everything is like smoothless, right? Everything goes effortlessly. It is just like running by itself. It's all being taken care of, right? Because you give so much, yet you also have created this balance that you can also receive, of course. And people want to come to you. They want to work with you. They want to, buy from you, because they see you as, the portal of, the answer, the portal of light, the lighthouse that can shine some light in their own darkness. So you go really into this higher state of being, where you really want to be of service, right? You give so much and you work on a purpose. You do not really work anymore trying to take care of your own needs of survival. That is all being taken care of. Now, as beautiful as this sounds, and I think like a lot of intuitive sensitive really want to be in that state. So far I've been working on my spirituality since 2012 in a really, pretty dedicated way. Of course I had moments like, yeah, now I really want to work on that, and now I'm like, oh, I can't be bothered. I go back to my survival. And since that time, these glimpses, right, these tiny little glimpses of that profound insight was like probably like less than 1%, right? Maybe just 0.01% of these insights. Yet when it strikes you, it changes you just here in that very moment. And everything that you have been so worried and concerned about, you do not really want to stay in that state anymore. And then you feel like, oh, I want to go back. I want to go back to that state of being where I can feel this realization, right? And you do whatever it takes to go back to that. You meditate, you go into mindfulness, you do everything what it takes. You're doing so hard your best to go back to that state, and it doesn't happen. Yet again, you feel back in this isolation, in this lack, and you go back and forth and back and forth, back and forth. You're doing so hard your best, you cannot really get there. And then in a very unexpected way, boom, it strikes you again, and boom, it strikes you again. Then of course, how can we actually stay connected with that? This is something I've yet to figure out, as that is also something I truly desire. And I wish I could share more of that. So if you want to follow my journey, then of course make sure to subscribe, and I look forward to see you in one of my next videos. Jean-Paul here, take care for now, bye bye.